Hi, everyone. Welcome to Expansion Strategies for After-School Suppers and Snacks, hosted by the Food Research and Action Center. I'm Steve Hayward, FRAC's Communications Manager. Before we begin, I'd like to cover a few brief housekeeping items. We expect this webinar to run about 60 minutes. We are recording the presentation and will send the recording and slides in a follow-up email. Feel free to introduce yourself and your organization in the chat. We'll have time for questions and answers at the end of the presentation. To ask a question at any time during the webinar, please use the Q&A panel. With that, I'll pass it off to Kelsey Boone, Senior Child Nutrition Policy Analyst at FRAC. Take it away, Kelsey.
Thanks, Steve. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for being here this afternoon. Just want to briefly go over a little bit about what FRAC does. So FRAC is a national anti-hunger nonprofit that works to improve the nutrition, health, and well-being of those struggling with poverty-related hunger through advocacy, partnerships, and policy. Today, we're here to talk about the expansion strategies around after-school meals. And so I'm going to go over our brief agenda. We're going to start out with Eric Peterson from the After-School Alliance talking about overarching expansion strategies. And then we'll hand it off to Pam Supernut of the YMCA of Central Massachusetts. And then we will finish with Constance Moore of the YMCA of Memphis to talk some more about some strategies that have worked in the past for their organizations. And then at the very end, we will have a Q&A. So I will be moderating if you want to put your questions in the Q&A function, and we will go through those at the very end. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Eric Peterson to kick us off.
Thanks so much, Kelsey. Good afternoon or good morning, everyone. Again, my name is Eric Peterson. I serve as Senior Vice President for Policy at the After-School Alliance. I'm excited to be with you all today. For those that are not aware, the After-School Alliance is a national organization. We're based in Washington, D.C., but work with in support of about 25,000 local after-school and summer learning program providers around the country. We work with and through 50 statewide after-school networks. We have a network of local after-school ambassadors at the local level, and also with vistas as well, placed at statewide after-school networks. What I'm going to talk about briefly today is sort of big picture, as Kelsey said, sort of overarching strategies for increasing meal participation and sort of our philosophy at the After-School Alliance around the connection and important relationship between after-school meals through the CACFP at-risk after-school meal program and comprehensive after-school programs. Then we'll talk a little bit about partnering to ensure programs are participating in the meal program. So if there's programs in your community or state that maybe are an after-school program but currently don't participate in CACFP, what are some strategies there? And then increasing the actual student participation for programs that already exist. So we'll get started. So first of all, when we talk about and at the After-School Alliance approach increasing participation in meals, for us, after-school programs are much more than a meal. And for the law as well, for CACFP, enrichment and activities is required as a piece of it. But for us, it's not just a requirement. We really know the value and importance of a comprehensive program where meal is one component, an important component for sure, but one of many components, including academic support, social and emotional supports, physical health, learning opportunities. Often you have a community service component, you have hands-on and project-based learning. Depending on the age level of the program, from elementary, middle, or high school, you may have career awareness and exploration as well as sometimes even parent engagement strategies and programming for families. Important, so I should say also in terms of comprehensive programs, one doesn't work well without the other. If you try to have a comprehensive after-school program without a nutritious meal or snack, you're shooting yourself in the foot. You're not going to have good participation. And I would argue the other way works as well. If you choose to provide just a meal without all the wraparound supports, comprehensive programming, and a quality program to go around it, you're also going to have a challenge. So More after-school programs and therefore more after-school meals means more student success. There's well-documented evidence over the last 25 years now around how a comprehensive after-school program supports student success, not just in terms of grades and academics, but in terms of behavior, in terms of particularly in this day, sort of coming out of post-ish pandemic. One of the major crisis points for the education system in this country and for young people is around chronic absenteeism. And the evidence is clear that students that participate in a quality comprehensive after-school program actually increase their school day attendance. And therefore, looking at comprehensive after-school programs as a solution in part to help address chronic absenteeism is something more and more schools and communities are doing, and something we recommend. Another crisis that young people are facing today is around mental health and the mental well-being outcomes for a comprehensive after-school program where staff and volunteers form strong relationships with young people and give them that sense of belonging and connectedness is also a key outcome for comprehensive quality programs. And finally, closing the achievement gap and knowing that many students today don't have the same opportunities that their higher income peers do, who may be in piano or ballet or other activities. A quality comprehensive after school program for all young people with no cost barrier can help close that gap as well. And parents are a key ally here. So as we're talking about trying to increase meal participation and therefore participation in comprehensive after school programs, parent satisfaction for programs at an all-time high. That's for many reasons, we think, but parents are an ally. And if there are schools or areas, neighborhoods in a community that currently don't have a program, count on parents to help you encourage the leaders in that community, whether they're school or municipalities, to in fact work to increase opportunities for after-school programs, again, both meals and comprehensively. The need continues to grow. We're at about the most recent data from 2020. We'll have new data next year. We're excited about that. From the America After 3 p.m. survey, we're around 25 million students who would be in a program, according to the parents, if one were available. The majority of those are in elementary, but middle and high school as well. And this is really the highest demand that we've seen. We'll know more again next year when we have data, but that boils down to for every child in a program, 3 are waiting to participate or on wait lists or wanting to be in a program. Cost, again, is a barrier, transportation, other access issues. But the good news is there is momentum and ways to address some of those challenges. Many folks are familiar with the American Rescue Plan for many different reasons in terms of how it supported communities. The education funding through the ESSER funding was a huge resource for many after-school and summer programs. We estimate over the last 3 years about $10 billion was provided to support after-school programs at the local level. About 5 million students got access to programs that didn't previously. The challenge, though, is that those funds have to be all spent by January of 2025, and therefore sustaining those programs is a key challenge right now for the out-of-school time field. The good news around that is that states, legislatures, and governors have really stepped up, and we're hoping that they will continue to do so to help close that funding gap. So we have seen just in the last 2 years, about 8 states that have, for the first time, invested in after-school and summer programs. We're up to 26 states now that are funding after-school and summer, have grant programs available or through funding formulas through K-12. And so that is an opportunity, again, particularly for programs that we're using ESSER funds, the Elementary and Secondary Emergency Relief Funds through the American Rescue Plan to support programs that maybe now that funds are going away. They're, again, looking for opportunities to extend those programs. And whereas some of the ESSER funds were actually used to provide meals and food, now with those funds going away and looking for other sources of funding, programs are going to have to be creative about braiding funding, coordinating funding across funding streams, and therefore the CAC at-risk after-school meal program and the reimbursements they provide are a critical puzzle piece to sustaining those programs. So it's an opportunity, particularly for anti-hunger advocates out there, to partner with out-of-school time advocates to make that happen. There's a number of federal funding streams beyond the COVID funds that are available to support after school and summer programs through K-12, Title I Part A, and a number of other of the title funding streams are areas that school-based programs can use. Community-based programs can tap into 21st Century Community Learning Centers, full-service community schools, and other funding as well through the Department of Ed. At Department of Health and Human Services, the Child Care Development Block Grant, which 45% of which the students are school age that are supported by that. That's a voucher program, but programs can ensure that their local after-school programs, school run or otherwise, can ensure that they're licensed or license exempt, be able to ensure that parents who qualify and have vouchers through CCDBG, through the Child Care Development Block Grant, are able to participate in their program. That can help. And of course, that allows, again, for increased participation in programs and therefore meals. TANF, about 10 states are using their temporary assistance for needy family funds to support after-school programs, and that's another opportunity for advocates to look at. And finally, and there's a lot more, actually, there's some great resources on tapping into federal funding, but the Corporation for National Community Service through AmeriCorps and AmeriCorps Vista helps, again, with some of the staffing challenges that after-school programs have experienced. We have a lot of great resources on our website, but I will point you to a number of these here that can really help you think about what's the right funding stream at the federal level. Again, there's more than 80 or so that are available that fit the type of program that you're working with or that you're running. Two other pieces I want to, before I hand off to my esteemed colleagues. One is the partnership piece, right? So again, I talked about beginning that we work with the 50 statewide after-school networks. If you're not partnering with the after-school network in your state, I highly encourage you to do so. Through our website, as well as the 50 statewide after-school network website, there's contacts for the leads in all networks. They're really capacity builders and puzzle piece gluer togethers at the state level that could really help you as advocates partner with local programs or as local programs tap into other partners, whether it's school district, municipalities, other nationally affiliated after-school programs, but also local community-based programs to help figure out, again, what funding streams make the most sense, who are meal sponsors in your community, who you may be able to partner with who are already, or in the case of like AmeriCorps, we've seen a lot of partnership where a program may have a number of AmeriCorps slots, but they're not necessarily utilizing all of those. So being able to place one of their AmeriCorps individuals at a local program. So that kind of partnership is another way to look at your 50 statewide after-school network. The other partnership piece that I think is important to flag is, again, the 21st Century Community Learning Centers program through the Federal Department of Ed. The way this works is every state gets a chunk of funding based on the number of low-income students in the state, and then the state education agency holds a competition. Schools can apply for and receive these funding, but so can community-based organizations, nonprofits, for-profits, faith-based organizations, charter schools, parks and rec, libraries, just a long range, or wide range rather, of eligible entities that can receive these funds. But a lot of these programs, while their majority are eligible for after-school meals, are not necessarily participating in the after-school meal program, but they should, right? They are not able to use their federal 21st Century Community Learning Center funding to provide meals, to pay for the food for meals. And so it's vital that they partner and be part of the CACFP at-risk after-school meal program. And the best way in your state to figure out which programs have that funding, where they are, is to reach out to either the statewide after-school network or the state education agency 21st Century director. Most state education agencies have a list of their current grantees for 21st Century up on their websites. We also have those lists if you have a challenge finding them. But looking at who's there and then figuring out if they might need some help in tapping into the meal program is another way to increase participation. And then finally, student participation at the local level. We know that sometimes programs have a challenge with getting students to show up every day at programs, or may offer a program and expect if they create it that students will come, and that's not the case. Really quality programs, and there's lots of good tools and resources on our website and the National After School Association and others Quality is key to encourage and yield high student participation. And you need the students there to feed them the meals, as well as to ensure that they benefit from everything that programs have to offer. One of the key ways to do that, and again, resources, I'm not going to go through them individually, but lots of good elements from the research over the year of what makes a quality program. But a key piece is engaging students. So if you're not doing this already, or if the programs you're working with are having a hard time attracting students, the first thing to do is think about asking students, in fact, what they want in a program. And when you do that through student advisory boards, through feedback and surveys of students, through student leadership in the program, when students take charge and let leaders know what they want in a program, that's when you start to see increased student participation and really ownership of the program. And there's lots of great tools, again, for making that happen. With that, I'm going to let you know that feel free to reach out. Happy to help you. I know just skimmed over some of the funding sources, but that's a lot of what we do, is help programs tap into some of the funding sources and figure out what's right. So always feel free to email or reach out, and I will hand it back to Kelsey. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Steve. And I'm going to hand it over to Pam Supernet from the YMCA in Massachusetts.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you, Kelsey. And before I jump in, I really had hoped if you guys could take a minute and in the comment section, chat box, whatever this application calls it, tell us what organization you're from. Even though I can't pay attention while I'm talking, I will look back while Candace is talking, because we really can tailor some of our conversation to sort of what you're looking for. And one more thing before I start is at 2 o'clock, I was on a call with YMCAs from across the country, and 2 local Ys, one in Michigan, one in Wisconsin, in the last 2 weeks just had visits from USDA, not their local state agency, but actually the feds, USDA, because they're running such premier programs. And they're big and they're amazing and they're great and they've grown. And both of the programs said over and over again, we didn't start out this way. We've expanded, we've learned from others, we've collaborated, we've partnered, we've grown over time. So, as you have listened to Eric and you're going to think about what I'm going to tell you, and then Candace, really kind of have that thinking cap on, and we're here to talk about after school expansion of those food programs. And while I do work at the YMCA of Central Massachusetts for the last 30 years, for the last 20 years, I've worked with food programs, and for the last 15 years with YMCAs in every state, almost every state, not Alaska, but Hawaii for sure. So there's definitely a lot of differences, big programs, small programs, well-funded programs, not well-funded programs. So I'm hoping that you'll be able to find and take a nugget. And I know Eric shared a lot of numbers, but for me, the idea that there are 25 plus million kids on free and reduced lunch across the country, and then about only 5 million of them are getting after school snacks through USDA. That's a gap for me. And let's think about how we get more kids more food. So with that, I promise I will jump in. So expansion. So when you think about expanding an after school food program, there really are different buckets and ways to go about it. You can start thinking about what you want to expand. Do you want to expand capacity, the number of kids that you're feeding? Do you want to expand the number of sites that you're providing food at, or do you want to do both? And the answer, really, how you're going to answer that question for you and your community might help inform the next step and the next step and the next conversation that you have. So for us, we think about the food, the days and times that you're serving, the where, the how, and the who. I know I didn't put that in order, but it was on purpose. All right, so the food. Let's really dig into this. So I love that everyone is serving someone something. Well, not everyone, but in an after-school program, the idea is to serve snacks or meals. But if you think about incremental growth and you think about the food, can you move from snacks to meals? So rather than 2 components, can you do 3 components? And it's certainly a way of expanding your program and serving more food. So you don't need to have a kitchen. You don't need to cook. Hundreds and hundreds of YMCAs across the country and other youth organizations have a 5-component meal. We call it a super snack. It's 5 things, of course, following the CACFP guidelines, but they don't need to be a lasagna with a salad and a bread and all of that, a very, involved meal. Certainly a lot of programs love hot meals and love that. But if you're thinking about starting or thinking about a way to just get more kids food, you could think about moving from snacks to meals. And then also food quality. I think, this is really about youth voice and listening to what the kids are looking for, and the idea that what are you feeding them, and is it what they want to eat? We really want to eliminate food waste. There's so much food waste going on, but then kids are still hungry. So how do you sort of balance the idea? Do you share menus? Do you ask for people to give you some of their menus? Do you survey the kids? Do you figure out they really are never eating this, so we shouldn't serve it? I know you have to try a lot of times to get a kid to maybe like a green pepper. But the idea is that, think about what you're feeding them and how you're feeding it. Are there taste tests? Are you doing smoothie bars? Lots of different things to get kids excited about eating and what you're serving them. So please consider the food when you're thinking about expanding your food program. And then again, expanding and thinking about the days and times. So for us and a lot of programs, and when I talk about us in the YMCA, I really mean community organizations and other youth serving organizations. 1/3 of the school year are weekends and holidays. So when you think that 1/3 of the school year are weekends and holidays, so when you think about, all right, I want to expand my food program and I want to feed more kids, well, the kids need food on the holidays and kids need food on the weekends. So what's happening? And, for us, we're looking across our local YMCAs, and there are swim meets and there are swim teams and there are football practice and there's teens, and so many kids gather in different places, whether they're parks or, in warmer places than Massachusetts, they can be outdoor pools year round. But the idea is that find out where the gaps are, find out where the kids are during the holidays, during the weekends, and think about, wow, is this a way that I could expand my food program? And that is actually thinking about the parents' perspective and the parents' voice about how they get more food to their kids. And the extended hours piece was, you think it's rocket science, and it absolutely isn't. But, are your serving windows big enough? So, you have to put in an application and you tell them that you're going to serve from 2:30 to 3:30. Well, is that window big enough to get the kids that maybe arrive at your, programs before that time? Wow, what if I expanded it, extended it, made it as big and long as I could to get as many kids fed as possible? So we sort of look at that when we think about the elementary kids, and then we're always thinking about teenagers. Teenagers, in my mind, are like the quiet hungry. They're never going to say, hey, I need a meal, like a second or third grader is, but teens will always eat. And we really try to focus a lot of our food programs on teenagers and then also on weekends. So always consider days and times. So the where, and I think I touched on this a little bit about the gaps. So, usually you guys are the experts. You're the experts in your communities, hopefully, and you know what's happening and you know where the gaps are. You know where there is no food, there are no programs, there's programs, but there's no food. There's food, but there's no programs. How do you get connected and make those connections to say, wait a minute, we're a CACFP sponsor. This tiny or other organization isn't. It's a lot to maybe go through the application and become a sponsor. What if I sponsored them? I could do that, get them the food, they've got the kids, and work them up towards being their own sponsor. You can sponsor multiple sites, you can sponsor multiple organizations, just the idea of communities working together. And when I say communities, I sometimes mean neighborhoods and spaces in all of our cities and towns across the country. How do we work together to identify that's a desert? That's a gap. There's no food program there, and let's get the kids. So I love to think about those parks and pools, and even schools. Like schools, if they don't have after school programs, they've served the kids lunch, then they've closed down the school. So is there a way, are they having an after school program, and are they feeding the kids there, and vice versa? So, all of your state agencies can tell you who the sponsors are, who's got food where, and it's really great to dive into your neighborhood and your community to know the answers to that. We literally, at one of our housing authorities, they gave us a 3-bedroom apartment to convert into a food site. All you have to do is ask. All they can say is no. So you think about other youth groups. Boys and girls clubs and YMCAs love to work together. There's church groups. And you think about weekends, who's at church? Usually when our faith-based meetings are usually on the weekends. Is there a way to connect food to that? Libraries, you name it. There's opportunity for sure to do great food program work. So the how, and I really feel like Eric did a fantastic job talking about the program. I always ask, do they come for the food and stay for the program, or do they come for the program and stay for the food? It doesn't matter. It's both, it's and, it's or, it's all of it. But if you have great programs, if you've got this cool STEM thing going on, or you've got a tutoring program or a mentoring program or a football program or an after school program, whatever it is, that's okay, this is the programming, they're gathered here. So let's try to feed everyone where all of the kids are, all programs, and they need it. I definitely wanted to touch on nutrition and nutrition education, because I do think it's important for young people to learn early about understanding what they're eating, what they love, how it fuels their body. The sooner that you start doing this, for sure, the earlier they will be in tune to it. They might be invested in it. They're going to start to tell you what they love and what they don't. It's so important to try to connect their families. You typically don't see their family, but do you see them at either drop off or pick up, the start, the end, whatever it is? But the more you can share, whether it's a newsletter, whether it's a text, whether it's a bulletin board, whether it's shouting out the door, he tried, broccoli for the first time, whatever it is, I think having taste tests, having family events where parents get to see their kids make a salad and eat a salad or do something different with fruit, the more that you can do to engage the family, the more connections and relationships you're building, so that you can talk to them about SNAP. You can talk to them about, do they need help with, budgeting and groceries and meals and all of the things. You're going to love hearing from Candace in a couple of minutes. But the idea is that, food programs are really the entire scene, and you want to make sure that you're including great nutrition education and then also community and family engagement. So the who is, how are you going to get this done? It's a lot, and you can do it yourself. You absolutely can. I hope that you're not, but maybe you are. But don't do it yourself. For sure, partner. And I think that Eric, mentioned this as well, but there are so many resources in your community. I know I said you don't need a kitchen, but if you wanted a kitchen, maybe there's a church in your area that has a kitchen and they only use it on Sundays, or they only use it on Saturdays, and you could use it the 5 other days of the week. Or maybe they've got storage space and you need storage space. So partners share resources. They also, can go in with you on buying power. So everything costs more and more and more. What if you bought things in bulk across different organizations, across different branches, or whatever it is? All right, if we all bought our strawberries together, are the strawberries going to cost less? And what does that look like? And of course, it brings its own drama with it. But is there a way to, figure out some great pricing strategies that will help? They're going to help you identify the gaps. You don't want to duplicate work. You don't want to, 2 food programs right next door to each other, and then 2 blocks away, there's absolutely nothing. So really thinking about working together. I also think partners bring volunteers. And while, we don't all have a lot of money, we don't all have a lot of staff that can get this done, volunteers are the way to go. And certainly it's a way to grow your program. And they're always, the community wants to be connected to these sorts of things. And then, of course, funding, and think about your community funders and your donors, different grants, United Way, healthcare systems, just, you're not in this alone. And if you are on an island by yourself trying to expand your food program, FRAC is the answer. They've got resources, they can get you connected. It's time to sort of tap in and lean into those things. Communities working together for the greater good, for sure, are going to be the answer to expanding food programs in your community. So what are you supposed to do next? Because that is a lot. So I always say make a plan and work the plan, and then, fix the plan and do another plan, and just keep working it. And I will say, start somewhere. If some of you are on the phone, like we've got the YMCA of Greater Boston, one of the largest YMCAs in the country. And then we have tiny little YMCAs that maybe have 60 kids in their after school program, not, tens of thousands. So you just have to pick something and start somewhere. Are you going to move from snack to meals? Do you want to be a sponsor? Do you want to be a site? Are you going to have a meeting together? Are you going to make a phone call? Are you going to call me? Are you going to call Eric, Constance? I've been saying Constance, or Kelsey. The idea is just start somewhere and tap into the resources and the support that's available to you, because that is absolutely what we're here for. And of course, then we'll all be able to feed more kids. So my contact information is on this slide. I will check the chat box and see if folks have put where you're working and what you're doing. And part of my actual job, though I work at the YMCA of Central Mass, my other job is to really support organizations with food programs across the country. They tell me what they have, they tell me what they want, we figure out together a plan and how to kind of move the needle. It's an elephant, and let's take ant-sized bites. So thank you guys so much.
Thanks so much. And now I'm going to turn it over to Constance Moore of the YMCA of Memphis.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Pam, for highlighting me throughout your presentation. I take Candace a lot too, so it's okay. Good afternoon, everyone. I am Constance Moore, the Senior Food Compliance Officer here at the YMCA of Memphis and the Mid-South. I stress the Mid-South because while we are located in Memphis, Tennessee, which is Shelby County, a large metropolitan area, we serve most of West Tennessee, and we are also in North Mississippi. So we serve meals in 2 states, both Tennessee and Mississippi. I'll give you a quick background on the YMCA of Memphis. We got involved in the food program during COVID. The local school system here had an employee that got COVID, and they were not able to provide meals when the school shut down. We were asked to provide those meals, and the YMCA stepped up. And boy, have we stepped up majorly into the food program. So my thing, when I got the invitation about after school expansion strategies, I went to what we have been doing and how I word after school expansion to everyone, because a lot of people know about summer meals. We are able to provide summer meals when school is out. Most people don't know where they can actually get meals while school is in session. So when I speak to sponsors, I always say the key difference between summer food and after school, a building. Because in summer, you can feed the child anywhere. You can literally feed a child in a park underneath the big tree, but during after school, the at-risk hours, you have to have a building so that the kids can come into a facility and have some sort of enrichment educational activity involved. So for us here at the YMCA of Memphis, just like Pam said, we are big on partnerships. We are. And it might look different in your area. I know that there are a lot of sponsors that are trying to get in with the HUD, housing and urban development, so that they can serve in those housing projects. Also think about just the singular apartment complexes. If you are living in a town someplace and you know that there's an apartment across the street from the school, and an apartment complex can be as small as 4 units stacked on top of each other, or as large as 100 to 200. It just depends on where you are. If that apartment complex is across the street from a school, I guarantee there are some children that live there that could absolutely take advantage of after school meals. We also partner with churches. We have a event coming up here in Shelby County called the Pastor's Luncheon. Very gratefully, that last year one of our C-suite members was invited to the first one, and then that they spoke about nutrition. For us, being the YMCA, we still have people that look shocked or surprised that we actually provide meals. And you might have that in your community as well. A lot of people may not know that you are actually providing meals after school. Speak at these different functions. Find out what's going on in your community and get there. So, like I said, we have an event coming up, the Pastor's Luncheon, where we are a sponsor there, and we will be speaking in front of about 250 pastors throughout from the Mid-South area. So that's another way that we can get our churches involved. Again, I'm in Shelby County, so the city of Memphis has a lot of community centers. Out of the 26 that they have, we serve meals in 23 of them, including one adult center. And so when we think about after school at risk, it's under CACFP. We also have our early learning centers. We also have, again, our adult daycare centers, emergency shelters. Think of all of those things. I know we're talking about after school expansion, but think of the different ways that you can take advantage of the CACFP program. Pam mentioned the libraries. Absolutely. Libraries always have something going on for the kids. They may not advertise as public as we would like them to, but there are different activities at the library nearly every day. Just go to your local library, speak with the librarian, not the person that's checking out books, but the actual librarian, and get a calendar of their events. Ask that librarian, can I bring in meals during these event times for the children, children events? 9 times out of 10, they'll say yes, because they are not aware that they can receive meals in and feed the children for free. And then I say open sports programs. I kind of link that back in with community centers because, when children are out of school, when they get out at the end of the day, some of them may go to a gym, or they may have, I know I live in Jackson, Madison County, and we have a recreational sports program for children. It does not, when we serve in after school meals, we do not have to serve specifically to a sports team. We are providing meals to all of the children that are there during that time. So I know, we know the rules. We cannot serve to the national youth sports. We understand that. But we know where a group of children will gather at a certain time each day. We can have meals there and we can provide those meals. The key with after school expansion, area eligibility. That's the key. So go back to the USDA FNS map. It will show you different populations or different areas where you may be eligible in your town. Please, I don't know what city or state you're in, but whomever runs your CACFP program, they should be providing you a list of schools that have 50% free or reduced price meals. You can serve in those areas. It's all about tracking where you are, getting the necessary information you need, and then going and make those partnerships. If you believe that it will be difficult to obtain that, or it will be difficult to go out and start speaking at different events, like Pam said, call us. You feel free to contact FRAC. They have a wealth of information. They will get in touch with someone, probably one of us, and we can walk you through it. We want you to expand because the need for food is real. Food insecurity is a high issue that doesn't get highlighted enough. And so we are very grateful for the time that we have when we can speak about it. On my next slide, I'll tell you all about different services. And I bring this up because so many people don't think about this. I told you on the previous slide, locations where you can find children. There's other things you can think about too. Behavioral health. We know that there are some children that are in school with the IEPs, individual education plans, and that they are required to go to therapy at different times. you can serve after school meals there. And we know this because, again, we were fortunate enough to be at an event where the lady, and forgive me, I cannot recall her name, but I'm in Shelby County. She came up to us and said she wanted to know her facility has children come in the evening time after school, and they have therapy sessions. And she realized that one of the main concerns was food. By the time the children get to them in the evening time, they haven't eaten since lunch at school. She wanted to know, could we provide meals there? Of course, we have to go through all the steps, add them to our application, and make sure they're eligible. Shelby County, the entire county, is eligible for us. So, yes. So now we serve at 2 different health care groups where children are attending group therapy sessions and individual therapy sessions. Does this work? Yes. It started, end of school here in Tennessee was in May. And we got her into our program right at the beginning of May. So we weren't able to track anything, but we continued during the summer. So when we spoke to her at the beginning of this school year started back August 5th. She said she has noticed a considerable decline in behavioral issues once they reach her facility, because they know when they come in, they are going to get a meal. What an amazing thing for a child to not have to worry about eating. You are focused so much on my behavior in the classroom that I was simply hungry. And the Y was able to provide those meals. It's just a very touching story for us. Also think about the extracurricular activities. I know that I talked about the open sports programs because I'm thinking about how it is in my county when the kids get out of school and they go to the parks and rec. But also some schools literally still have chess clubs, and they have different robotics and science clubs. You can feed those children. If you are a school system, wonderful. Please, you really need to be on the after school at-risk bandwagon. You really, truly do, because the kids are right there at the school. If your school system does not, you know that there's an activity there. Cheerleading, because I have a 10-year-old and she loves cheerleading. And you know that the kids will be there after school. Why not provide meals? Again, after school at risk must be open to all children ages 18 and under. You will provide meals to any child that shows up during that time. That child does not have to be enrolled in an activity in order to get a meal. And by meal, I'm going to reflect back to what Pam said. We provide some people call it a super snack. When it's got the full 5 components, we just say meal. And then we can also provide just the snack. That's what we do at our Y. Think about physical therapy. I spoke a lot about the behavioral health because I know that children go to therapy. Mental health is wealth. It's just, we really have to focus more on that. But there are also physical therapy groups around. There's one, again, in my county where children come to receive physical therapy each day due to a number of reasons. We won't get into that, but we know that the kids are there to receive physical therapy. And if, again, the child is coming to physical therapy, can that child focus on what the therapist needs him or her to do if they're hungry? So ask the facility, can we bring in meals and have these meals ready when your children come in? Do you have an area here where the children can sit and eat before they are seen by a therapist? I promise you, they will allow those children to sit in that lobby and eat that super snack before they have to actually go and see their therapist. Works out every time. And tutoring. Does your school system offer tutoring? Maybe not. But I guarantee you know someone in that school that has a private tutoring business or company. I know several people that go to the schools and they leave their flyer and they say, if your child needs help in math or algebra or, English as a second language, please reach out to me. They're running these programs. Sometimes it might be out of their garage. I've seen it, and I have to kindly say no to that because, ma'am, I can't trust what's going on in your home. But some are running these programs in open areas such as libraries and community centers. Ask them. Simply, it's an ask. do you want us to provide these meals free of charge to you, but to make sure that these children are able to eat and stay focused on what you're trying to teach them? So tutoring is a very key point. One thing I didn't put on here, grassroots contacts. That is something that we are often asked in Tennessee on our application. How do you reach those grassroots organizations? You know, those organizations that are out there to, for lack of a better term, out there to save the world. And they do different things. They do different social things. So how do you reach them? Well, you got to find them. You got to look in your community and find who does what. One of our key grassroots is the Neighborhood Christian Center. It's only one of several that we have. But Neighborhood Christian Center tries to run a food bank. And that's fine. And, you know, I'm proud of them. They have a nice warehouse out there. But they're not able to feed all of the kids that come to their different areas. And that's where the YMCA steps in and helps them. Because their main location is in a central part of the city. And then they have different branches in very rough neighborhoods. And so they're not always able to reach those families, but they know that the children are there. Well, the YMCA steps in and tells them so long as they can provide the employee to serve the meals and keep the required paperwork, then we can continue to send those meals out. And we do. We're very fortunate enough to be in an area where we're trying to help as many people as we can. So when you think about your after school expansion, just think about what's going on in your area. Regrettably, I'm only one person. I cannot visit each and every one of you. I don't think the Y would even pay for it, you know. But if you want me to come out there, just let me know. And I will work with you. I mean, I know FRAC will work with you. Of course, FAM will work with you as well. We're here to offer any assistance we can. But if you really want to get your program started, you're going to have to do some work in the beginning. It may seem like a lot, but in the end, and by the end being that federal fiscal year, it's going to pay off. You're going to see a difference. And I just had a quote today from somebody. I'm going to wrap it up with this quote. I should have had it ready because what he said was so powerful. He said, if we woke up tomorrow and we were not here, would anybody notice? You know, just a deep thought. That was really, you know, touching to me. And after that, he said, if you are feeding kids, then they would definitely notice. So what is going to be your impact in your area? Are you going to wake up and nobody knows that you were there the day before? Or are you going to wake up and the kids are looking for you? Because once you serve one child, the word is going to get out and your program is going to grow from there. Okay. Thank you so much. I'm so glad that I had this opportunity to speak, and I am done.
All right, wonderful. Thank you so much to all of our speakers. I just wanted to quickly go over some FRAC resources on after school. We do have an after school report. This report was released last October, and we will have another one coming out hopefully this October. We also have a bunch of resources on our after school website. And the last link is a link directly to some of those resources. And like Steve said at the beginning, these slides will be sent out so you can follow these links we usually send a follow-up in about a week with the recording and with the slides. So now we're going to turn to Q&A. And so if you have a question, if you could please put it in the Q&A function at this time. Yeah, we'd love to move forward from there. I guess one question for our panelists, if you were a school or a after school, recreation activity and you wanted to add after school snacks, what would be the first 2 or 3 things you would tell that person or that organization to do to start out? And any of our panelists can answer.
I'll jump in. If I am brand new, the very first thing I would do is find out what state agency governs the CACFP program. I know that we all are anxious to serve because we have the heart for it, but we also need to be aware of what the rules and regulations are for your state. Because I said we serve in Tennessee and Mississippi, and while it's a USDA federal program, the rules are different for each state. That would be my first step. Your second step, while you're gathering that information, where do you want to serve? You have the heart for it. Where are you serving? So when you get the information back on what state agency governs it, you can turn around and say, this is where I would like to serve. Is this acceptable? And from there, you're ready to go. Just move on. Just start the application process. Make sure you understand all of the rules. If you don't, use FRAC resources always to get a greater understanding.
And don't be put off by, bureaucracy, red tape, state systems for sure. Be willing to incrementally work towards it. So time of year actually matters. For Massachusetts and a lot of programs, there's a deadline. The year is October through September. So we're going through the application process now, and then October 1st starts the news. And if you have this idea to feed kids in December, well, the application's already, they've looked at most of them. But you could be a site somewhere, and that might be a quicker way to get, like if you've got the kids and you want to just get them food, find out, again, your state agency will have a list of everyone who's a sponsor so that you can hop onto someone else's sponsorship, make that connection, start feeding those kids right away, and work towards your own sponsorship, which takes a little bit more time. Candid, I was going to say Constance was honest about it's some work. Some paperwork for sure, because it's federal money coming through state systems. But and FRAC is a great resource for that. What do I do? Where do I start? And who's my state agency? You type it in and Google, and it'll just tell you where to go.
Yeah, I would just echo everything that that you both just said. And second, the don't be turned off by the bureaucratic process. We know we all wish it was easier, but because of accountability and you're dealing with the government, there's always going to be some challenges. But don't let it discourage you, and know that many people have gone through it before and have tips and tricks on getting through it. So take advantage of the resources, the partners that are out there that can help you.
Wonderful. Thank you all so much. I am not seeing any other questions. And of course, if you have questions after this presentation, you're more than welcome to reach out to me or any of our panelists and get in contact with us this way, and we can answer any questions via email. I really appreciate all of you being on today, and thank you again to our wonderful panelists. This was a very informative presentation. And I hope to reconvene soon to talk more about after school meals. So thank you all.
Thanks. Bye-bye.